Horses' vision, eyesight, one of the more fascinating things I've become aware of as I've become older, maybe not wiser, but more experienced. I had no idea that horses saw the way they do. I just pointed my horse at the fence and hoped that he got over it. But since teaching for over 40 years, it's become very clear to me that horses see from different angles and they hold their heads in different ways. And some horses need to have their head really, really high to see. And that was driven home to me by a big brown horse in America whose head was right up here. So I thought, oh, let's just put a running martingale on, he can't see where he's going. Popped a running martingale on, which I'd like to think I'd fitted correctly, you know, with him getting his head as high as he wanted without going beyond the point of vision. And he stopped. And I said, we'd better take it off again. And he went. And he came back to me the following year in a clinic and she said he's now a grade B show jumper. So he was a terrific jumper, but he needed his head like an alligator, completely horizontal. And that's where he could see. So that fascinated me because I'd obviously called that completely wrongly. And I then learnt something else, funny enough, in America, in a magazine, somebody showed it to me, and I've never forgotten it because it's made so much sense of something which may not be scientifically correct, but is 100% correct as a horseman. And that is the Red Indians, who were magnificent horsemen, so much so that they could teach their horses to lie down, cover them with sand, run behind a bush themselves, let the cowboys gallop by who were chasing them, and they got away. And these incredible horsemen, the Red Indians, wrote that a horse saw distance out of the bottom half of his eye. That's why he has to put his head up to look for danger or friends or whatever it is. But he saw close to out of the top half of his eye, which is why he puts his head down as he comes near a ditch or something that he doesn't understand, or water or whatever. And I've never forgotten that. And I once took a horse to an eye person because I couldn't understand why he was behaving the way he was. And he didn't find anything wrong with him, but God, there was something so wrong with that horse. And I asked him about this Red Indian vision, the bottom half of the eye being close vision, the top half of the eye, wrong way around, the bottom half of the eye being distance vision, the top half of the eye being close. And he said, I don't think that's correct. There's this lens and that lens and the other lens. So I thought, oh, science and horsemanship aren't going to mix here. And that's a little bit happened with the study that's been done on horses' vision of colour. And it's been a long job trying to work out what colours they see best. And it's hard to know because you can't get a horse to do an eye test. But what came out of that University of Exeter study was that horses saw white the best. And with that, racing is changed its ground lines and the line across the middle of the fence, which keeps the birch in, to white from, I think it was sort of sandy orange. And I was shuddered when I heard that, because in my experience of teaching, which spans quite a lot of years, every now and again you come across a horse who can't compute white, especially if it's mixed with water. And that was put to a very good example at a 3-star event not so long ago, where there was a cheese slice, a white cheese slice in the water, jumping from the water back into the water. 80% of horses, it wasn't very big either, no problem. 20% of horses all over the shop. Left early, landed on it, left early, landed in front of it, ran into it. Fascinating. And that to me was truly necessary for us and those at course design to understand that white is a dodgy colour, and put white with water and it's even dodgier. So we have to be a little careful, because so much is explained by science, and I'm all ears for science, but I want to mix that with my knowledge of many years of watching horses. And I once asked somebody I really respect, called Dr. Andrew McLean, an Australian who's got endless letters after his name in equine science and physiology. And I said, why do some horses spook and other horses not? Because I grew up on nearly thoroughbreds maybe 7/8 bred, and they didn't spook. I remember the first horse I had, that spooked, who was a sort of part warm blood, I suspect, very elegant horse called Foxy Bubble, who went round Burley getting at all the advertising boards, which made jumping the fences at Burley pretty tricky. And I'd never had this experience before, and I get it all the time now because nearly every horse that I ride is part warm blood of some description. So I said to Dr. McLean, why? And he said, I don't know, but I think it might have something to do with the angle that the lenses are placed in their eyes. And I then took that a little bit further with a Darwinian theory of my own and thought 300 years ago, racehorses started racing. And they went very fast without blinkers in those days. And during that time, the warmer blooded horses were pulling a carriage quite slowly and trot, most of them, except for the male ones that went very fast, with blinkers. And I'm thinking, I wonder if there's anything to do with that the thoroughbred or the thoroughbred types spook so much less because they've had 300 years, etc., of seeing everything and going fast. And the warm blood has been going slowly and behind the blinkers. So who knows? It's just my idea to try and explain why we have so many spooky horses now, and we never did. Really fascinating. But vision is so important to understand, and what I find really interesting is when a horse is naturally on the bit, and again I'll go to warm bloods, a lot of them come out their mothers on the bit, it seems to me. So you go to slow down for a fence, which means you put a little bit of pressure on, sit up and all those sort of things. And the horse goes doink onto the bit, because that's probably what he's been taught to by his great-grandmother. And he can't see the fence, because when his face is vertical, the bottom half of the eye, which is the distance vision, is looking there. I want his head up, and then I know he can see the fence. And once he's seen it, I don't have to worry to keep his eye on the fence. He'll keep looking at it. He may not jump it. That's up to me to make sure he does, but he will have seen it. But the amount of times you see horses coming in too low to be able to see the fence, and I'm saying, get him off the bit, and they're going, what? Because they thought they'd presented a lovely quality canter on the bit with lots of power, so surely it was perfect for the fence. Well, it might have been, but not if you can't see it. And there is obviously the other side of the coin when they go beyond the point of vision, which is when I pop on a running martingale, because some horses just do that, and for whatever reason, some of them it's very sensitive in the mouth, and some you can find a bit that really suits them. Often a very, very soft bit and an elastic running martingale will sort out those horses that are very, very sensitive to any pull and immediately go beyond the point of vision. And that's just as dangerous as being down here. So there's quite a wide range of where horses see, but approximately 45-degree head seems to see most things, but there are no rules. And it's up to us to find out what suits our horse and what kit we need to do to help him. I had two brilliant thoroughbreds, Village Gossip and Regal Realm, who did incredibly well and very, very fast. And they both needed a running martingale. In those days we didn't have elastic ones. They both needed a running martingale that actually the rein bowed. So instead of it being straight from the bit to my hand, the rein went down to the running martingale and came back to my hand, which to me is much too short, but that gave them security, and that's what made them go really well. So you have to be so open-minded. My initial thing for a martingale is stick their heads in the air, pull the ring up hard, and it should come to where the jaw meets the neck, and then you've got them about where you want them so that they'll be able to get high. But if they flip beyond the point of vision, the martingale will say, oi, don't do that. And sometimes I wear elastic and sometimes I don't. But you just need to fit them properly. An awful lot of them are actually sold too short now. You need to add a spur strap or something like that to give them the length. And there's some long-necked horses. They need quite a long martingale. But again, I won't wear one unless I feel it helps him and gives him the security. And it very often does, and very often you don't need it. So like everything in life, there's so few rules. But if you do wear one, it needs to be fitted well, because you must give your horse the chance to see how he wants to see. And it might be right down there, and it might be right up there, and it might be somewhere in the middle, which is the most normal. So it is fascinating, and I'm learning all the time, very much still learning about horses' vision.